Hey guys, it's Ben. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I wanted to talk to you about two books that really changed the game for me whenever it comes to evangelism or discipleship or apologetics, any of those things. So here are two books that changed everything. Before I get to that, though, there is a book that you need to know before you engage in apologetics, and that is this book, the Holy Bible. If you do not know the scriptures, then you don't know what you're defending, and so you can't defend it. Now, you can do evangelism because if you know the Lord, then you've heard the gospel message and you can share the gospel message. But discipleship is harder if you don't know the word, and apologetics is near impossible if you don't know what you're defending in the first place. And so the first book that you should know, and you should know well before engaging in apologetics, is the scriptures. And so first and foremost, I want to say, be in the word. You can share the gospel, you can disciple a little bit, but only as much as you know what to share, and you get that from the scriptures. And so the first book is the Bible. Now, before I get to the two books that really helped me in all those areas, evangelism, discipleship, and apologetics, there is one thing that I think I should say, and that is that people who say that you don't need apologetics, they don't do evangelism. Every time I have been on the street sharing the gospel, it never works out where I just read a few Bible verses and then someone says, okay, I'm ready to give my life to Jesus. It just doesn't happen anymore. Most of the time, you're going to get at least one or two questions. You're probably going to get into a conversation. And if someone does come to know Jesus during your conversation, it's probably because they've already had multiple or many conversations with someone else before they even talk to you. And so keep in mind that evangelism is important, and you're going to need to know your stuff before you engage in a conversation with an unbeliever. Now, what I'm saying is that it's going to help you tremendously to know some basic principles of conversation and apologetics before you get into a conversation with an unbeliever or a skeptic. And so here is book number 1, Tactics by Gregory Kokel. This book, as far as having conversations with unbelievers and skeptics, atheist, agnostic, Mormon, Jehovah's Witnesses, even other Christians whom I disagree with, this book, outside of the Bible, has had the largest impact on my conversations. If you can get down just two of the principles in Greg Kokel's book, Tactics, it will greatly increase your ability to have conversations with people. It will give you courage to get into the conversation in the first place, and it will train you and how to remain in the driver's seat of any conversation that you get into. And yes, even if you're outgunned. What I mean is, if you get into a conversation with someone who just seems to know more than you, or is a better debater than you are, whatever the case may be, if you can master the principles in Tactics, you can have a conversation with about anyone. He goes through the Columbo tactics, so asking the two questions that are helpful in any conversation. What do you mean by that, and how do you come to that conclusion? Mastering those questions. Also, how do you deal with someone who is loud and obnoxious and they're getting really close to you, in your face? They won't let you talk. They keep talking over you. He calls that the steamroller. He tells you how to handle a steamroller. And then he goes through some basic logical principles that will help you notice when someone makes a blunder and gently, lovingly point that out in a conversation. So tactics is number one. The number two book that you should know is On Guard by William Lane Craig. This is a little bit more difficult than tactics, at least it was for me, because in tactics, it's how to have a conversation. In On Guard, it's what information you need to know when you're having a conversation. Now, in On Guard, it's going to be a bit different for most people because Craig uses structured arguments, meaning premises that lead to a conclusion. And if you're not used to that kind of a book, then On Guard's going to be new for you, a little bit different, a little bit harder probably to get used to that. But once you can get the idea of how an argument works, how to give an argument persuasively, how to handle objections to that argument graciously, On Guard will help you. And it will give you more confidence to step into the arena of ideas for Christ. And so that if someone says, I don't know why you should believe in God, or they say something like, there's no evidence that God exists or that Christianity is true, you're going to be able to know in your heart first, actually there is. There's really persuasive arguments. And you're going to be able to deliver those to someone else who has probably never been exposed to them. Now, the truth is, have I mastered everything in On Guard? No, I haven't. I've mastered I say master. That's a big word, isn't it? I have got familiar with, at least enough to communicate them, about 3 of the arguments in On Guard. But really, that's all someone really needs to know, is a couple of arguments that are powerful and that set someone on their heels and say, oh, wow, I never knew there was evidence for God. But I will tell you, if you know those 2 books, of course, taken for granted that you know the scriptures, if you know those 2 books, I would say probably 90 to 95% of the conversations that you're going to be engaged in, you're going to have a firm footing in that conversation. You're going to be able to remain in the driver's seat of that conversation and be a witness for Christ to a growingly skeptical culture. So there's one bonus book that I want to let you know about. That is The Case for the Resurrection of Jesus by Gary Habermas and Mike Licona. In this book, Gary gives us an extremely persuasive case for the resurrection of Jesus and therefore the truthfulness of Christianity. In this book, if you can at least expose yourself to the evidence for the resurrection, this will just give you so much confidence. And I think that's the biggest struggle for most people, is not the once they're in the conversation, but even getting up to the plate to hit. I think for a lot of people, it's just confidence. What if I fall on my face? What if I fail? What if I just get overrun? What if that person's really mean? All these questions flood the mind and we stay silent. But getting yourself familiar with solid material from solid scholars will help you get into that driver's seat and be a witness for Christ. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with. I hope that's helpful for you. These books you can find now for relatively cheap, and they will greatly increase your conversations with others about Christ, and they will make you a more effective witness. And so get into the Word first and foremost. Get tactics, read it. Get On Guard, read it, and if you want to take the extra step, The Case for the Resurrection. And so I hope that blesses you today, and I will talk to you soon.